So I'm going to talk to you about how I've been able to stay creative and inspired after over 30 years of working in Hollywood. So let's get started with a little bit about my background and what all I've done in the industry. And we'll get into some of the tricks and tips that I've used to really love what I do every day. So it's been well over 30 years. I started in Hollywood back in 1986. And I've now worked on over 5,000 productions, feature films, TV series, commercials, pretty much you name it. And I've worked on that type of production. Now, creativity has been a part of my life forever with whatever I've been doing. I was a competitive skateboarder when I was 12, and I ended up winning virtually everything I entered. And not because I was the best athlete. I mean, I was good, but it was because I had a routine, kind of like we're all watching the Olympics right now. They don't go out and just figure out in the middle of a flip, what am I going to do? I had planned a routine, and way back in the 70s, no one else was doing that. So it was the creativity and the story of what I was doing. You'll hear story a lot during this that led me to win. My family built custom homes. This is one of the homes that I built. This is the Oxford Manor. We created a story for this house. This is a giant house in Houston. And the story behind it led this to become the home of the year when we built it. In fact, then Bella Crowley, the Olympic gymnast coach that anyone who's over 40 probably remembers, he actually bought this house and lived in it for a number of years. While I was still in high school, I started doing concept illustration and architectural illustration. This is a piece I did for one of my girlfriend's fathers. And this is the Cornerstone Complex, which is still in Northwest Houston and still open, which is very cool. I got into doing cartoons. This is my first love, was doing cartoons, editorial cartoons and strip cartoons. I had them running both in the Houston Post and at my university. I went to Stephen F. Austin. When I went to Hollywood back in 96 or 86, I'm sorry, I started working at Roger Corman's studio. So Roger Corman was known as the king of B-budget movies. And a lot of Hollywood got their start working for Roger Corman. And in fact, including Jim Cameron, he was there just 2 or 3 years before I was. He did Piranha 2 here at Roger Corman's studio. And part of what was fun here is because of my construction background, as I mentioned, building homes, I designed and built all the sets for these. And you can see on this bottom one, the set was actually rather short, but we wanted it to look really tall. So what I pushed for and what we're really working at was using creativity to make it look bigger. So this is a miniature, but because we didn't have a post-production budget, like After Effects didn't exist back then. So this is all in camera. So I designed a miniature that would fit in front of the camera and be in focus and line up with the actual set. That was a great challenge. After working in Hollywood for a number of years, and I met my wife, Jeannie, she and I decided to move to Orlando, and we helped open up Nickelodeon Studios. I was the second art director at Nickelodeon when they went national, and this is in the Orlando studios. And at the same time, I then started a comic strip making fun of Hollywood. Now, part of this was, art directing takes like almost any job in production, by the end of the week, you're working through nights. You start mornings at the beginning of the week, you're working through nights at the end. And it gets very tiring and it's really easy to lose your focus. So one of the things I did to stay inspired and creative was making fun of all the nonsense we were going through in production. So when I created Hollyweird, it's all animals satirizing everything that we did. So anytime I wasn't working, I was working on my comic strip. So I was able to get, this is the relief of all the nonsense that I was putting up with. I then started making fun of it, and I ended up getting this syndicated. But then an amazing thing happened in my career. I started working for this man, for Steven Spielberg. He moved Seaquest, which was kind of like a futuristic submarine show, kind of like Star Trek, but it was underwater. And here's Seaquest here. So I was the story artist and the concept illustrator for the second season. But not only that, I also got my start in directing. I did second unit directing on this show as well. So it was easy to stay creative when you're working for Spielberg on a giant NBC series. It was the biggest budget show on TV at the time, and sci-fi. I mean, it was everything that the kid in me loved, the kid that's still alive and well today. And so this was easy to stay inspired. Now, once I started having kids, I've got identical twin boys. They're in college now. And one of the things that I wanted to do to force myself to take time off of work, because I am a workaholic, is doing martial arts with my boys. Now, I had studied a few different forms of martial arts growing up. And with my boys, we went 3 times a week, 2 hours a day for like 5 years. That was just dedicated dad-boy time. And got my second degree black belt. In fact, I tested for my black belts with my boys. We competed together. I'm a 2-time national champion. Each of my boys are 3-time national champions. This is another great release. So everything in my life isn't just Hollywood. There's always other things that that allows your mind to change and move and experience other things. And your other experiences influence the work that you do. So I highly suggest getting involved in something, anything else besides just your career. And along the way, I love to share my expertise. So I've written a number of books. But what makes a lot of my books different is they're all about story. In fact, even this one, Your Resume Sucks. Now, no one wants to read a book about resumes. Resumes are boring, but we all have to have them at some point in our career. I didn't really want to write just a boring resume book, so I created a story about a young man going out and starting his career, and he has 3 mentors that guide him through the different aspects of his resume. Then it became more fun, and it's become a successful book used in universities around the country. Now, as an artist, if any of you are illustrators, you use yourself as a model all the time. You're always looking in a mirror, but it's the same face over and over and over. And I started photographing a lot of different people to use as inspiration when I'm drawing. But then I realized I wasn't the only artist, and the people in my crew weren't the only people who needed this. So I've now got 3 books in the facial expression series, and they each one is filled with around 50 models photographed from every angle, holding a variety of expressions. Pretty simple. But one thing that's really cool, here's just a couple sample photos, is I asked artists, some of the best artists around the world, to do illustrations based on photos that inspired them. So, in fact, this is Travis Blaze. He was one of the Disney animators, and he drew this. The Spider-Man artist, Alex Saviuk, drew Travis here as the Joker, and Enoch Castaneda, who used to be one of my animators, did this off of a model that I've worked with a lot. And so here's further inspiration. Not only were they inspired by these, and you can see their wonderful illustrations throughout the book, but it inspires other artists who are using the book on how they can use these photos to enhance their own art. So a lot of what I do has to do with story and inspiration. In fact, even my books start at the top. This is a book that came out last year. I wrote this during the COVID shutdown. And all it is stories to help you succeed. There's stories of things that worked for me and things that didn't work for me, and then what I learned from the experience. And then another book that I wrote, and there's a number of things in this one. This is based on a true story attack of when I was bullied in high school, but my bullies followed me home and attacked my entire family. And I became the first person in the country to hold parents responsible for their kids' actions. So I'll be talking about a couple of different things that I did with this in just a few minutes. Now, a few years ago, my wife and I decided to move to Atlanta. Production's really growing here. This is where I live right now. But instead of just moving, I set myself a goal. Now, setting goals is a great way to stay inspired, no matter what it is that you're doing. And my goal was I wanted to work on The Walking Dead. It's a huge fan. And that was my first immediate goal. So I had something I was driving towards on the move. And this is the day I went in for my first interview. I was able to get in a contact through a contact and just asking people to help me, and they did. The actual doors from the pilot are there in the entryway. It was so cool. That was my actual expression. I was like, I can't believe I'm here. And I landed the gig. Before I finished the move, I had the job of story artist on The Walking Dead. That was a great way to start the move. And again, talk about staying inspired. I was working on a show I was a huge fan of. And I'm a comic book fan too. In fact, that it's also based on a comic. Not too many things I don't love about that. Now, this is interesting. So when I was in high school, especially when I was being bullied, my artwork started getting really dark and really violent. I didn't realize it till years later that that was happening, but this is one of the things while we were going through the court trial that I drew. But one of the things I also want to talk about on this is I always really preferred black and white artwork. I like the contrast, I like the line work. I never particularly liked working in color, and quite often I prefer the black and white art to the color art that other people do. And I didn't know why until I saw this. Now you might see something in here. I don't see jack. There's nothing. It's just a circle with a lot of dots on it. Because I'm partially colorblind. I have mild Newton. Now I can see that there's orange and some greens, but they don't stand out very well, especially the real pale colors. So I found a career where I don't have to work in color, production storyboards. Now there's an old saying is find something you love and do that for a living. Well, there's a little bit more to it than that. Not necessarily find something you love, find something you're good at and then figure out how to make money with it. Slight difference, but it can really help you. Because making money is also a great inspiration. Another thing that's really inspiring is getting to work with really creative people every day. Now, this is me back in the early 90s. This is on Spielberg's show, Seaquest. This is where I was directing second unit on one of the episodes. Now, being out there, having a whole crew that you're working with, and knowing that you're doing something for Spielberg, yeah, that's inspiring. I was so jazzed. I couldn't even sleep that night. The night before, I slept like a baby. The night after, I was so hyped. It was like someone just pumped adrenaline into me. Now, one of the things I do now, I storyboard every day. I am just drawing. It doesn't get old because every project is different. Every script is different. And every episode of a show has a different director. So because of that, I'm always experiencing new things and working with new people. But the other thing that I look at on every piece I do is I want what I'm working on now to be better than my older work, to replace older samples in my portfolio. I've got a very large website with samples. So whereas a few years ago, yeah, that was a great commercial piece, but I want my new work to be better, to always be turning, always be advancing. There's a lot of great talent out there. A lot of you coming up are really great at what you do. And I don't want you taking my job. So I'm not going to put you down. I'm going to make myself as good as I possibly can. So all of you are also part of my inspiration to get better. If you're always trying to get better, to improve yourself, it keeps you more engaged and keeps a better attitude, which I'll also talk about in a little bit further as well. Now, I do get bored pretty easily. I've got a lot of energy on things. I like new stuff. But being able to do new drawings every day, trying new styles, working with new directors and working within their style of visual storytelling, that really helps keep me really into and inspired. You know, I'm really into everything I'm working on. And I do look at storyboarding a little bit different than a lot of other story artists. Story artists tend to want to illustrate their vision. Well, if you're working in 2D animation in TV, great. There's a vision of the whole series, but then you do all the breakdowns. Live action, it's different. In live action, Our job as a story artist is to capture the director's vision, and I want to do it on the first pass. So that's kind of a goal. Every time I'm working on something, like this is Council of Dads. This is an NBC series that just ran one season last year. It's a really great show. So one of the things I'll do is I'll capture the footage after a show comes out, and then I'll edit together my storyboards with each shot from the show and see how close I got to what they ended up shooting. So giving yourself those little bit of challenges is also a way to stay inspired and to never just slack off and lay back. And it also helps your attitude. When my attitude is, I want to illustrate perfectly what's in your head. Because if you think about it, the director is the general of the army of production. And without everyone knowing what the director wants, they don't know exactly what to do. So this is going to be the blueprint for the construction of every episode. All right, so I mentioned wanting to get the director's vision. So that to me is looking at the big picture. One of the things that I found that frustrates a lot of people is they get frustrated with what they're being asked to do or what they're being asked to change because how it affects them. But in production, in most jobs, it has nothing to, most changes have nothing to do with you, okay? It has to do with the bigger picture. If you don't see the bigger picture, you get lost in the minutia of your own mind. And you can end up frustrating yourself, and you end up frustrating those people around you. But if you understand the bigger picture, if you understand how everything you do affects all the different crew and what the different crew needs and how that could end up changing your work, well, then your attitude will tend to get better. You won't be as frustrated by things because you'll realize why things have to happen and why things change. Because if you're only looking at your own artwork and someone says, well, we don't need this scene anymore, well, I could get mad and throw pencils and pens. Well, I spent all this time, they should just use it. But if an actor was written out and all of a sudden that scene doesn't make sense anymore, if you see the bigger picture, that, yep, that makes sense. I'm here to help make this as good as possible, not to force people to use my artwork just because I drew it. There's a big difference there. So with whatever you're doing, the more you can see the bigger picture, the better you're going to be at your job, the more you're going to enjoy your job, and the more help you're going to be to all those that you're working with. All right, so I mentioned attitude a number of times because attitude not only affects your work and how much you enjoy or dislike what you're doing, but your attitude affects those around you, which could also affect your income. Because if you've got a lousy attitude, well, when the next gig comes around, they're not going to call you, they're going to call someone easier to work with. You don't want to make people around you miserable. At least I hope you don't. If you do, well, you just won't work on any of my projects. So I had mentioned there are times when your art won't be used. And I've got some questions leading up to this. A couple of people reached out to me, said, well, how do you deal with all the work that you put into it and if your art's not used? And I've been doing this so long, I don't really even think about it much anymore. But I thought, you know, that's a question a lot of you probably have. So what about when your art's not used? Well, let's take a look at some things. First of all, when it's not used, doesn't mean that it wasn't valuable. Because when my storyboards are looked at by the entire crew, you know, they have their big pre-production meetings and they go over it, they may realize we don't have time to shoot that huge sequence, or we don't have the budget, or something's being written out and someone says, oh, you know what, that doesn't make sense anymore. So the storyboards did their job, even if they're not necessarily being used, they were used to figure out what does or doesn't work for the larger story. Also discover what does and doesn't work. There's one director, Alex Zam, that I work with a lot. He and I have done a lot of movies together, even Tooth Fairy 2, and there's a Disney Plus movie called Under Wraps that comes out this fall that we worked on together. And Alex really likes to try different ways of looking at things. He does a lot of comedies. The guy's really, really funny. Comedy is the hardest thing in the world to do. So we try a lot of different versions to see where the humor is. So of course, some of the art that I drew won't be used as we're exploring everything. So now I could get mad about it, or I could enjoy the process and go with him and find where the biggest humor is. So it doesn't frustrate me to redraw things or to not use certain elements of it, because I know the end result is going to be better because of it. My art also helps production organize. Like I said, sometimes organizing means not doing something. So we're going to use this sequence of the storyboards, but let's get rid of this because we don't have the time or the budget to do this shot. All right, again, it did its job. It helps them organize. Also helps the production budget, again, knowing where they need to put their production dollars and time, because time is money on production. Also helps them schedule. In fact, I was working on a scene last night. I can't tell you details about it, but I'm doing an episode right now on Fear the Walking Dead. And there's a lot of fire in it. And it's like, well, can we do all of these shots? Fire takes time. So we're working through all of that, and all production, all the different visual effects and grip and all the different teams have to look at it and go, all right, how long is it going to take take us to do these shots? The other thing is the storyboards help productions organize so well. It allows for changes, because if you're not organized and a director gets inspiration to do a different type of shot, that just takes a frazzled crew and throws them over the edge. But if you're really organized and someone gets inspired, it's easy to add or make one or two changes when everything else is moving cleanly. So my storyboards are helping them move smoothly, more accurately, get what the director's vision is, and allow changes. And if some of the art's not used along the way, well, that's part of the process to get the best product at the end. Now, one thing to keep in mind is that when your work is not used, if we're not going to use this scene or this needs to be changed, it's not personal. No one said, you know what? I feel like messing with Mark today. Let's not use this whole sequence that he drew. It's not personal. It's always about making the production better or achievable in the end. So if you take your personal ego out of it, and again, look at the bigger picture, it's easier to deal with those changes, whether the changes are redrawing or not even using a lot of things that you drew. The process of doing it and working with production still made that work and time valuable. So all that makes it easier. I don't even think about it anymore. So I'm like, yep, good, glad I helped. Let's move on. All right, we've talked about the bigger picture, plenty on this, but here's the other thing that helps stay inspired with all of the work, even when some of it's not being used, is I get paid for it, whether they use it or not. Money is a great inspiring device. I like getting paid for what I do. I like getting paid well for what I do. I'm very proud of the work that I do. And if they don't need it, but I'm still getting paid for it, great. My kids still get to go to college. All right, another question leading up to this, because I posted on LinkedIn and Facebook about what I was going to be talking about. And one of the other questions I got was, so how do you stay inspired if you're always working on someone else's creation? I want to create my own work. All right, well, no one's ever stopping you from creating your own work, but getting it sold and getting someone else to pay for a big production is a big deal. It's hard to do. I don't mind working on other people's creations. I mean, I get to work on The Walking Dead. I love the show. Being able to help that at all It's a great source of pride for me. So one of the things I do when I'm working on other people's projects, which is most of what I work on, and I've loved the last 34 years in production, so not doing too bad, is what can I bring to it? Yeah, you might have created it, but you hired me because of my expertise. So how can I help you make it better? I feel good about that. How can I challenge myself? Well, I talked about one way earlier. I want the boards I'm doing for you on this project be better than the boards I did last month on another one, because I'm always trying to better myself. What more can I deliver? What can I bring you? What can I do to challenge myself? Doesn't matter who created it, I still get that same thrill. Helping a client shape the story. I love telling stories in every aspect. I love knowing if I move the camera from here to here, I might change the meaning of that sequence, that shot, which in other talks I go over in depth on how that can really work. Every shot position makes a difference. Your lens choice can make a difference. And I've studied all of this all these years I've been working. So whatever I can do to help the director and help the producer and the DP achieve the story they want to tell, that's a fun challenge for me. And it doesn't matter who created the idea in the first place. And I also read between the lines of what they want. There are a number of times someone will come to me and say, I need a storyboard for this, or I need animation for that. But as I talk to them, find out, well, maybe you don't. Maybe you need this instead. Or if they want something that's funny or something that's scary, and they're talking about going one direction, I might say, you know, what if we looked at a different way? What if we tried moving the camera and doing this or this? Now, I won't fight for my vision, but I will always offer it if I see a way through all of my years of experience and thousands of productions I've worked on. If I have an idea that I think will help your vision get even better, great. I love that. And if the director doesn't because they have their own vision, again, my ultimate goal is to get your vision down. But I'm going to use my expertise to help that be as good as possible. So it's also paying attention to what they're not necessarily saying and seeing what I can do to help. That's happened a few times. This is one of our clients, Lisa. This is my wife, Jeannie. One of the other companies that I co-own with my wife is called Sell Your TV Concept Now. We help people develop, package, and pitch their ideas for TV. And Lisa came to us and she wanted to do a preschool show. She's also a teacher of very young kids. And she had this one idea. And as we were going through it, I said, you know what? That's not a preschool idea, but it's a good idea. You need to develop this for older kids. So we need to make these changes so that your story comes out, but you're looking at the wrong demographic. And she was like, oh my God, I didn't realize that. You're right. We had another client, for instance, Jen. Jen came to us with an idea for kind of this mystical, magical golfing show. She was a pro golfer, and she had this little boy as the star and a couple friends that were in the show. And as we were going through and she's telling stories that inspired her show, I looked at her, I said, I don't think that this boy should be your lead. She goes, but I've always seen it that way. I went, yeah, but you're a woman. These are your stories. I think the lead character should be a girl. Networks are looking for female-led series. You'll relate to the character more. This is really your story. It should be a girl. She goes, and because, you know, through the years, most shows have been male-driven, she didn't even think about the fact that it should be female-driven. And instantly the show got better. She goes, you know what? You're right. I do want this to be more of my character in it. And the show got better, got a lot more interest for a number of reasons. So that's also kind of reading between the lines. I saw what was best for the production and where she was coming from, and I saw something she didn't even see. So, you know, I'm always looking for ways to challenge myself. Like I mentioned, you know, always wanting to do better, trying to learn new things. I learn new softwares all the time. I want to see what the best is that's out there. Because if I need to change what I'm using to be better at my job, I'm willing to do that. And you should be too. So when I'm working in production, the first thing I want to do in challenging myself is I just want to get the first pass down. So if you're writing a book, just get it written. Yeah, it might be crap to start with, but it won't get better until you get that first draft down. When I'm storyboarding, just my roughest thumbnails, they might be terrible looking, but I've got to start with something to see what I need to do to make it better. The other thing to challenge yourself is not to be satisfied. Now, to a degree, I'm always trying to get better instead of just being satisfied with what I've done for the last 30 some odd years. But I still have to keep in mind budget and schedule and delivery on time. So you can take not being satisfied too far and never deliver. Can't do that. You always have to deliver, but push yourself to get to be better every time, but still deliver on time. Another question I ask myself, so how can this be bigger? And bigger is not necessarily size. It could be bigger action, bigger humor. I'm always thinking, okay, so this is here. What can I do to make it better, make it bigger? And by asking yourself that, I'm going to force myself to redraw a number of times. But hopefully it's because it's going to be getting better. So that's a question that can help you reach more success. One of the things that the way my wife looks at it, what kind of twist can I add to it? Okay, we've got this going, but how can I twist it to make it a little more unusual, a little more original, a little more creative? And there's no one specific way of looking at that. But if you just look at it of whatever it is that you're doing, whether you're in photography, filmmaking, graphic illustration, script writing, okay, so you've got this sequence laid out or this painting design. How can I twist it just a little bit or twist it a lot? Can that make it better? Give yourself that moment for inspiration to strike. But you got to ask that question to allow that inspiration in.
Sorry to interrupt, but you've got 15 minutes left.
15 minutes. Okay, thank you very much. I'm going to try to get through some of this a little quicker so we can have time for a little Q&A. So my book Attack that I mentioned earlier, one of the things that I did on what little extra time I have, but again, it keeps me creative and inspired, is I created an animatic, which is, well, it was playing. Here we go. It's a video moving storyboard to show people what my vision is on it. All right, so this was really fun. This is on my website at marksimonbooks.com. You can see the whole epilogue to the story on how I see it, how I see the story unfolding. Then when I got done with that, I thought, you know what? I love comic books. So I took the same artwork and I developed a comic book of the epilogue of my story. And again, it was fun. It's you know, comics I grew up reading. I've done them for clients, but here I did this for myself. So I'm not selling this. This is free on my website if anyone who wants to read it. But hopefully it'll drive sales for my book. So I'm having fun and hopefully driving sales and interest in my properties. Okay, so I look at a lot. I'm going to get through this part. Here's some other bits of inspiration. My surroundings. I want to be creative. So this is like most people's garages. This is the entry into my house. Not the front door. No one ever goes in their own front door. You go in through the side door of the garage. But this did make me happy. I mean, the blue door rather than a white door, that helped a little bit. So I made it SpongeBob's house. This is literally the entrance in my garage into my house. Makes me smile and laugh every day. This inspires me when I'm coming home. Our guest bath. I designed and built this bizarre table structure in our guest bath. That makes me smile. That's a creative outlet. I was at another artist studio and I saw all their paints. That inspired me to take this picture and I ended up framing it. And this is hanging upstairs right now. I love the color, even though I'm partially colorblind, I can see these colors. So that's inspiring to me every time I see it. My workspace, where I am right now. I mean, you're seeing a little bit of this behind me. This is my main workspace. I designed and built this so that when I walk into my office, I'm creatively inspired. So I surround myself with things that inspire me. Even this is the screening room in my studio that has a hidden door in it. But not only is it a hidden door, but behind it, I put a Deadpool image that, again, just cracks me up. I'm also inspired by other people's artwork. Alex Saviuk, the amazing comic book artist. I've got some, in fact, he even gave me some of these comic book pages from Spider-Man. That inspires me. That's right over my desk. It's right there. I also put up posters of my own work. That inspires me to keep moving forward. And I even created up in the ceiling, John McClane from Die Hard coming down through the ceiling. Just an interactive thing. I just like doing fun little things. So all over my office, there's fun little things you can explore and find. And I also really enjoy sharing my expertise, like what I'm doing with all of you right now. I do the same thing in live events, at least before COVID. I was doing a lot of live event talking. But I also take breaks. I work very hard and long hours, but I'll take a break. This is right outside my studio. I have my camera next to me, and I run outside and I'm able to capture. I just took that last month, this photo right outside my office door. That inspires me. I love to play disc golf. So I built a disc golf course in my backyard. Releases your mind. When you're frustrated with something, step away. Do something else. Your subconscious is going to keep working on it. I mean, you can frustrate yourself by just sitting there and trying to grind through, but sometimes walking away is the best way to keep moving forward. You know, because a clear head can be creative. If you get too much jumbled stuff going on, you end up getting writer's block or artist block. I don't really have that, mostly because I do so many different things, and I'm now deadline driven. I have to be, because I'm working on so many productions at the same time. So someone asked me, what's a typical day? I'll try to get through this quickly. So a typical day for me is I wake up and I look at my calendar. What it is I have scheduled for the day. And then I go through my emails and I try to get through the 300 emails that showed up overnight. I often have a lot of Zoom meetings, things like we're doing right here. I'm meeting with directors. I've got a meeting this afternoon on Fear the Walking Dead. And after my meeting, I then have to take a lot of reference photos. I'm researching things that I need to draw, or I have to, sometimes the director will say, I want to have the feeling of this movie. So I need to watch sequences from that movie, and I get paid for that. Isn't that cool? So a lot of research, and then I draw. I'm drawing a lot. And then I might need to do some audio work and editing for an animatic. And then I'm drawing some more. I also love skateboarding. I still skateboard. This is on one of my electric boards. So I might take a break, even if it's over a weekend, generally not doing a work day, but I do try to get out and ride. That's fun, clears my mind. And invoicing. I'll take some time and invoice. And I really like this part because, again, I like money. I like getting paid. The only way to get paid is if you tell people how much they owe you. So invoicing is a part of my day. At night, I'll sit down dinner. Sometimes I go out to industry events, or I'm hosting events, doing things like this. I am with you guys, watching TV. I'll relax at night after dinner, watch some TV, especially if this dude is on. Then once my wife goes to bed, my kids are off of college, so I don't see them anyway. I go back and I draw some more, whether it's finishing up a project for a client or working on something for myself. And then I relax at night by reading. I fall asleep really quickly. Reading a book takes my mind off of all the other things, and boom, I go out. Because a good night's sleep makes it easier to work the next day. So inspiration, find something you enjoy or that you're good at and how to make money. Watch your attitude. The better attitude you have about what you're doing, the more people are going to want to work with you. Find ways to challenge yourself, set goals. Try to look at the bigger picture. Then you won't be so frustrated with things that you're asked to do because you'll understand how it benefits everybody. Pay attention to your surroundings, like I did with my studio. Make it so it inspires you. And then take breaks. Allow your mind to relax. and clear your head. Take a walk outside, do a sport, read a book, see a movie, whatever it is to help you clear your head, makes you more creative. So I'll get to Q&A in just a second. I've got a lot of courses on LinkedIn Learning. Just search for my name, especially on storyboarding, but I've got voiceover courses and everything on there as well. And check out marksimonbooks.com for my latest book, Start at the Top and Attacked. And there's a lot of free content on Attacked that's streaming and downloadable on my site. And now we can get to questions. All right, so can you help me out with this?
Yeah, fantastic. If you've got any questions, just go ahead and put them in the chat. I'll read them out and we can get to the answers.
Oh, there's a bunch of people. Now I can see everybody. Hello. Jay Shu. I'm just looking at this now. Dude, nice to see you. All right, who has a question? I know Jay has a question. He always has questions for me. Everyone's muted, but who wants to ask something? Raise your hand and then John will open you up. All right, John and Jay, either one of them.
Okay, I guess they unmuted me first.
Okay.
So one of the things is you have a packed schedule.
Yeah.
How do you explore other mediums? Like, are you getting back into natural mediums like watercolor and any of that stuff? Because I know you're doing a lot of digital art, and there's this kind of tactile difference between drawing on pencil and paper and then drawing. Is that something you miss, or have you completely gone digital?
I've pretty much completely gone digital. I actually prefer digital over paper because it allows more revisions, easier revisions. And I never liked smearing ink, and I never liked having to erase. So now I just turn off a layer. So the speed at which I can get to my end vision working digitally doesn't even compare to working with paper and pencil. So I don't miss it at all. All right, how about John Williams? Let's see, he had a question. There you go.
Hey, Mark, thanks a lot.
Hey. Yeah.
Hey, so kind of not really a question, but Axum Jacks, hey. I was there 89 to 90. When were you there?
I was there 82 to 86.
I'll be darned.
Yep.
I was still in high school. You look better than me. No, thanks a lot. And I was also I lived in Northwest Houston. I was a radio producer in the 90s. So
very cool.
We have Houston in common as well.
I lived in Greenwood off 1960, okay. And I built homes in Old Oaks and Champion Forest, if you know that.
I'll be darned. Yeah, I worked off of Kirkendall at a place called Moffett Productions. So how about that? Cool. Also, I guess while I'm here, what are your tools for drawing? You use Cintiq or Wacom?
Yeah, I do use a Cintiq. It's actually right here. Let's see. So there we go. There's my big Cintiq. I actually have a whole bunch of them. I've got a Cintiq back over there, and I've got 2 mobile Cintiqs I take out when I'm working on in production as well. So yeah, I'm a huge Wacom fan. I love their stuff. So yeah.
Excellent. Thanks so much.
Digital everywhere.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Great presentation.
Thanks. All right. Looks like Chris Hetty has one.
Hello. Quick question for you.
Yeah.
Mark, you've done a fantastic job in laying out in your presentation how you have beautifully shown how it's really important to have hobbies outside of the art form, and how it's important to be like you've advocated for being a father. And I'm wondering what percentage-wise, when you gave that outline of how your day kind of unfolds.
Yeah.
Like percentage-wise, how much are you giving to your family? How are you making time for those sacrifices to make sure that you're there for your kids, but also making sure that your art doesn't sacrifice as well? Like what internal parameters do you have that you're using that are essentially I really got to be working on my art today, or this is a good opportunity to bring my kids in on this project?
Well, my wife also worked in the film industry, so she understands that there are times that you have to dedicate yourself to something to get it done, because she's had to do the same thing, which is nice. So we see our careers the same way. My kids grew up with it. My kids were child actors. Neither of them are in the industry now. So they understood it. I usually try to spend at least a few hours every day with my family. I mean, my kids are gone, so but my wife and I, we have dinner every night. We have most lunches together. I always spend time with her after dinner before I go back to work. She goes to sleep earlier than I do, so I wait till she falls asleep, and then I go back because I don't need a whole lot of sleep. So I adjust my schedule so that allows me time to spend with my kids. My kids do call me pretty often from college, like when they're driving to work or something like that. I will always stop what I'm doing and talk with them. But there are times where I'm in the middle of something. So, you know, there is no necessarily percentage. I like it when I can take at least a half day and go play around a frisbee golf, disc golf somewhere. Or I'll leave town for a day or two. You know, my wife will take little mini vacations, you know, one night out. Because I tend to work 6 or 7 days a week, but I work so efficiently, I can take a few hours here or there to do something with friends and family. So it's another thing, nice thing, working for myself allows me that flexibility as well.
Thanks. Really sorry. I think we're going to have to cut it short there. We've got Aidan here to do a raffle, so I'll hand over to him for his section.
All right.
Thank you very much. And Mark, spectacular session. Thank you so much for speaking at the Creativity Conference. It's been wonderful to have you. And as John said, I'm just going to dip in very quickly and run a very quick raffle. The conference is one of our partners, FilmDo, is offering 3 hours of mentorship, 3 times 1 hour of mentorship for 3 lucky individuals with their CEO and founder and all-round expert in the film industry, Warada Sucharitkul. So I'm giving out one of those vouchers right now. We gave out one yesterday, and there's another one being given out sometime this afternoon. So make sure you attend live sessions to be in with a chance of winning that. While Mark was giving his fantastic presentation, I selected a random winner of the voucher from the live attendee list, and I can reveal that that winner is none other than Jay Shu. Congratulations. And please send me your email in the chat directly, and I can get you in contact with FilmDo. Well done, and there is one more of those to give away, so attend sessions this afternoon, and it could go to you. Thanks again, Mark. I'll hand back to you and John to wrap things up.
Great. Well, thank you everyone for showing up. I know a lot of people tend to wait and watch replays. I really appreciate all of you being here for the live presentation. Hope you got a lot out of it. Stay inspired, stay creative. I hope to see you all soon.